Now, as Africa's digital future takes shape, particularly in the lead-up to the first ever G20 Summit hosted on the continent, blockchain is one technology being punted as a key enabler of inclusive and sustainable economic growth. The newly released Africa Blockchain Report 2024 highlights the most impactful trends in blockchain investment and innovation across the continent, moving beyond the hype to spotlight what's truly driving value. Now, the Stablecoin Digital Product Manager at Absa CIB, Nkahiseng Ralepeli, joins us now for more. Nkahiseng, a very good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, Simpiwe.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure. First of all, now with Africa set to host the G20 Summit for the first time, digital transformation is front and center. Now, from your perspective, Nkahiseng, what role do you see as blockchain playing in shaping Africa's digital economic future?
Yeah, so we think at Absa CIB, there's going to be a number of ways that this happens. So one of the ways in which that's the case is that we think that it will enable the democratization of finance, right? Yeah. So you're having systems and players like blockchain technologies describe or at least build use cases pertaining to things like tokenization, which is the idea that you can fractionalize things like equities and stocks. So imagine a world in which you don't have to buy a stock because you might not have that initial capital, right? Mm-hmm. So now you can buy fractionalized amounts of that. So now you can buy a decimal point, basis point of a specific stock or an equity or commodity or anything that you really like. So that's one of the ways. The second one that we think is going to be a really novel way in which people are going to really benefit from the underlying technology is through credit facilitation. So you're seeing a lot of blockchain companies enable credit and capital distribution in ways that otherwise wouldn't have been able to do so. Yeah. And this is premised off of the back of the Africa Blockchain Report, identifying some key observations around why it is that you're seeing so much venture capital funding that's being targeted specifically at blockchain technologies, even more so than other fintech sectors across the continent.
Yeah, you just touched on the Africa Blockchain Report of 2024. Now, what differentiates this year's report from the previous blockchain overviews or even industry insights? I mean, was there a particular area of focus aimed at grounding blockchain in real-world application rather than just the hype, just the rhetoric?
Yeah, so I guess the first observation to make there is there's a distinction between the blockchain technology and the cryptocurrencies that are often spoken about, right? Mm-hmm. So in the blockchain report specifically, there's an identification of companies that are looking to do so. So the tokenization of an equity is vastly different from cryptocurrencies per se, because ultimately a tokenized stock is linked to the underlying stock. So that's one of the ways we saw real world application really proliferate. But the other way is that you are seeing blockchain technology at scale, but also digital assets more specifically, coming to the regulatory purview across the world, right? The United States is a very clear example of that. And you're seeing that effect across the rest of the world too. So those are the two specific ways you're seeing a unique development from the previous report to this report. It's no longer the case that it's largely startups that are partaking in the space, but now you're seeing more financial institutions really partake at scale even, right? So they're not dabbling in the space anymore. They're significantly investing in building in the space and tokenizing assets and partaking even in the underlying custody of things like Bitcoin or Ethereum.
Now, Absa CIB is at the intersection of traditional banking and fintech innovation. So how are you exploring or even deploying blockchain technology in ways that ensure security, in ways that ensure compliance and even real utility?
Yeah, so we embed compliance in our solutions across the board. The really cool thing about the underlying technology that we're describing right now is that you can embed that logic within the particular technology itself, right? So in traditional finance, when you're making a payment, for instance, you have to trust that counterparty. But in the blockchain space, you don't necessarily have to trust that counterparty. So when you simply send a particular transaction to someone else, we can verify that you indeed send that transaction to that person, and we can verify that counterparty too in ways that you can't do it in traditional finance specifically. But to answer your question, like I said before, we embed that compliance and regulatory function within all of the solutions that we're looking to build at Absa CIB specifically, because obviously, consumer protection and being in the bounds of regulatory sort of like overview and regulations more at scale is really important to the bank.
All right, Nkahiseng, great chatting to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Simpiwe.
Thank you.